I struggled reading this and uploading it. Let me say this, not every man will move like you think he should. Everyone is not built the same. Everyone doesn't think like you think they should. Everyone's decisions won't align with yours. Now, here's the story. I've been married to my wife Crystal for 16 years. We're both in our early 40s now, and we have 3 sons together. Our youngest Troy is 14 and plays varsity football. Our middle son Dustin just turned 17. And our oldest Brett is 19 and was supposed to be finishing his 2nd year at the trade school before all this went down. We've been attending Mesa Community Church for the past 14 years, ever since we moved to Arizona when I started my HVAC business. I'm a contractor, been doing heating and cooling for 15 years now. Started working for other guys, learned the trade inside and out, got my licenses, and eventually bought my own truck and tools. Now I run a small operation with 2 guys who work for me part-time. It's honest work, pays around $65,000 a year when the season's good. And in Arizona, let me tell you, AC season is long and profitable. You know how it is with HVAC work? You're either fixing what's broken or installing something new to keep people comfortable. I take pride in that. When someone's system goes down in July and it's 115 degrees outside, I'm the guy who shows up and makes it right. There's something satisfying about diagnosing a problem, finding the root cause, and fixing it properly the first time. Crystal works 3 days a week as a receptionist at a dental clinic downtown. Between my business and her part-time job, we were doing pretty well. Nice house in a decent neighborhood with a 2-car garage where I keep my work truck and personal tools, kids in sports, regular church attendance, the American dream, right? The kind of life you work toward, the kind of stability you build piece by piece. Like installing a complete system. Our lives revolved around that church more than I think either of us realized until everything went to hell. Sunday morning service, Wednesday night Bible study, youth group activities for the boys, church softball league where I played first base, mission trips, potlucks, volunteer work. If those doors were open, the Cooper family was probably there. Crystal became particularly close with several women in the congregation over the years. She joined this Thursday morning women's Bible study that met every week, and she genuinely seemed happier having that community. I was glad she found her people, because making friends as an adult is hard, and she'd struggled with that when we first moved to Mesa. It's not like when you're young and friendships just happen naturally. As adults, especially with kids and work and responsibilities, you have to be intentional about building those connections. About 3 years ago, a new family started attending our church. The husband, Shane Rivers, ran a plumbing business, small operation like mine, maybe 5 or 6 guys working for him. We contractors all know each other in Mesa, especially those of us who've been around for a while. His wife, Amber, was a substitute teacher in the school district. They had 2 boys, Lance, who's 16 now, and Cody, who's 13. Everyone welcomed them with open arms, the way Mesa community always did with newcomers. Our church has always prided itself on being a place where families could plug in quickly and find their spot in the community. Crystal immediately clicked with Amber, and within a few weeks they were texting constantly, meeting for coffee, having their boys over for play dates. I was genuinely happy about it because Crystal had been complaining about feeling isolated since Brett got older and more independent. When your oldest starts becoming his own person, it changes the family dynamic. Crystal needed something that was just hers. Shane seemed like a decent guy too. He joined the men's fellowship group that I was part of. We'd grab breakfast at this diner on Baseline Road once a month on Saturday mornings. Good group of guys, mostly contractors and small business owners, talking about work and faith and raising kids in today's world. Shane was quiet, kept to himself mostly, but seemed solid. Nothing about him raised any red flags for me at the time. We were both contractors, both dealt with the same suppliers, Desert Supply, Arizona Mechanical, places like that. Sometimes we'd even refer work to each other when a job needed both plumbing and HVAC. New construction, remodels, commercial work. In our industry, your reputation is everything. Word travels fast among contractors, suppliers, and customers. If you do good work and treat people right, you get referrals. If you don't, you get frozen out quickly. Everything seemed normal and healthy for about 2 years. Crystal seemed happier, more engaged. Shane and Amber became regular fixtures at church events. Their boys got along well with our sons. It felt like we'd all found our rhythm as families and as part of the church community. Then around March of last year, I started noticing small changes in Crystal's behavior. Nothing dramatic at first, just little things that made me wonder. She was suddenly very particular about her appearance in ways she hadn't been in years. New clothes, different hairstyle, spending more time getting ready even when we were just going to church or running errands. She started going to this new gym, which was great, but she'd never shown any interest in fitness before, despite me suggesting it several times over the years. I'd always been the one trying to get the family more active. Now suddenly, she was doing spin classes and yoga, coming home energized in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. Her phone became surgically attached to her hand. She didn't go anywhere without that thing. She'd smile at texts and quickly minimize the screen if I walked into the room. When I asked who she was talking to, it was always just Amber or someone from church. The Thursday morning Bible study started running longer and longer. What used to be a 2-hour commitment turned into her being gone for 4 or 5 hours. She said they'd started going out to lunch afterward, or sometimes just sitting in the church parking lot, talking about deep spiritual matters and supporting each other through life challenges. I thought it was odd, but I didn't want to be that controlling husband without good reason. She started volunteering for everything at church, especially things that involved working alongside Shane. Church cleanup days, organizing the food pantry, helping with vacation Bible school planning committees, setting up for potlucks. There was always a reason she needed to be there, and Shane always seemed to be there too. I noticed them talking after services, standing just a little too close, laughing a little too enthusiastically at things that weren't that funny. But again, I convinced myself I was being paranoid. We'd been married for 16 years, had 3 sons together, were pillars of our church community. Surely she wouldn't risk all of that for some middle-aged plumber with a receding hairline. You have to understand, when your whole life is built around stability and doing things the right way, the idea that your wife might be having an affair seems impossible. It's like when someone calls and says their AC unit just stopped working. You assume it's something simple, a tripped breaker or a clogged filter. You don't immediately think the compressor died, and you need to replace the whole system. The real wake-up call came last July during our annual church camping trip. Every year, a bunch of families from the congregation rent spots at this campground up near Flagstaff and spend a long weekend together. It's always been a highlight for our family. The boys look forward to it all year, getting away from the desert heat, sleeping in tents, campfire stories, the whole experience. This time felt different from the moment we arrived. Crystal volunteered to help Amber with meal planning and cooking for the group, which meant she spent most of the weekend at their campsite instead of ours. I was left managing our 3 boys by myself, while she was supposedly helping prepare food and organize activities for everyone. But when I'd walk over to check on things or drop off one of the kids, she and Shane were always off to the side having these intense private conversations. Not the kind of casual chatter you'd expect from people planning a group dinner. They'd be standing close together, voices low, looking like they were discussing something important and personal. Amber didn't seem to notice, or maybe she was in denial like I was trying to be. She was busy with the actual cooking and organizing while her husband disappeared for long walks with my wife. I started paying closer attention to the group dynamics, and it became obvious that Shane and Crystal had developed their own little bubble within the larger group. On the second night of the trip, I woke up around 2 a.m. and realized Crystal wasn't in our tent. The boys were all asleep in their sleeping bags, but her spot next to me was empty and cold. I went looking for her, telling myself she probably just went to the bathroom or couldn't sleep and decided to sit by the fire. I found her sitting by the dying campfire with Shane, both of them in camping chairs pulled close together, speaking in voices so low I could barely hear them from 20 feet away. They were leaning toward each other, and there was an intimacy in their body language that hit me like a punch to the gut. When I approached, they jumped apart like they'd been shocked by electrical current. The same kind of jolt you get when you accidentally grab a live wire. Immediate instinctive separation. She claimed they were just talking about church stuff, planning the upcoming fall festival. He nodded along, but neither of them would make eye contact with me. I didn't buy it, but I also didn't want to cause a scene in front of everyone at the campground at 2 a.m. We had a tense conversation back in our tent, where she accused me of being jealous and controlling. She said I was imagining things and that I was embarrassing her by acting suspicious of innocent friendships. She cried and said she couldn't believe I'd accuse her of something so horrible after all these years together. The tears seemed genuine, and for a moment, I wondered if I really was losing my mind. Maybe I was seeing things that weren't there. Maybe the stress of running my own business and dealing with difficult customers was making me paranoid. I felt like the bad guy, so I apologized and tried to let it go. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. It was like when you hear a strange noise in an HVAC system. You might not be able to identify the exact problem immediately, but you know something's not running right. After we got home from the camping trip, things got worse instead of better. The changes in Crystal's behavior became more pronounced, like a system that's gradually failing and finally starts showing obvious symptoms. She started leaving the house at odd times, claiming she needed to run errands or had forgotten something at the store. She'd be gone for 2 or 3 hours for what should have been a quick trip to Walmart or Fry's. When she came back, she'd have one small bag of items that couldn't possibly have justified the time she was away. If I asked what took so long, she'd say she ran into someone she knew and they ended up talking, or the store was really crowded, or she decided to stop somewhere else while she was out. Our intimate life, which had admittedly slowed down over the years like most marriages, completely dried up. She always had an excuse: too tired from her new workout routine, not feeling well, stressed about work at the dental clinic, worried about one of the boys. There was always something that made it not the right time. I tried to initiate conversations about what was going on with us, about whether she was happy, about whether there was anything I could do differently. But she'd either change the subject or start an argument about something completely unrelated. My work schedule, the boys' grades, things around the house that needed fixing. It felt like our marriage was cooling down the same way an AC unit does when the refrigerant starts leaking. Everything looks normal on the surface, but the system just isn't performing the way it should. You know something's wrong, but it takes time to figure out exactly what and where the problem is. The final straw came in early September, on a Wednesday. I had been working a job at this new subdivision out in Gilbert, installing a whole house system for this family who just moved from back east. Big house, high-end equipment, the kind of job that pays well and builds your reputation if you do it right. The job was supposed to take 2 days, but we finished up early Wednesday morning around 10:30. The homeowners were thrilled with the work, said they'd never had contractors who were so professional and efficient. They paid the invoice immediately and said they'd recommend us to their neighbors. It felt good, the kind of validation that makes all the long days and difficult customers worth it. My guys headed back to the shop with the work truck to clean up and prep for the next job. I decided to take my personal truck home to grab some lunch before heading out to the next appointment, a maintenance call on the other side of town. As I was driving down our street around noon, I saw Crystal's Honda parked in our driveway. That immediately struck me as strange because she was supposed to be at the dental clinic until 5. Something felt wrong, and I couldn't explain why, but my gut told me not to pull into the driveway like I normally would. I drove past our house and parked my truck 3 houses down on the street. I sat there for a moment, trying to figure out what I was doing. Maybe she'd come home sick. Maybe she'd forgotten something important. Maybe there was a perfectly reasonable explanation. But after months of suspicious behavior, I couldn't ignore this feeling in my stomach. Then I spotted it. Shane's white Ford F-250, parked 2 blocks away on the next street over. I recognized it immediately from all the times I'd seen it at church and at various job sites around town. Same truck, same toolbox setup, same company magnets on the doors. My heart started pounding like a compressor kicking into overdrive. I got out of my truck and walked back toward our house. When I got to our driveway, I noticed that our garage door was closed, which was normal for the middle of the day. But instead of going through the front door like I usually would, something made me walk around to the side of the house where there's a door that leads directly into my workshop area of the garage. This is my space, where I keep my personal tools, my diagnostic equipment, spare parts for jobs, my workbench where I rebuild components and figure out complex problems. It's where I go to think and work on side projects, where I feel most like myself. Every tool has its place. Every part is organized exactly how I want it. It's the one area of the house that's completely mine. I quietly opened that side door and stepped into my workshop. The familiar smell of motor oil and metal shavings should have been comforting, but my hands were shaking as I closed the door behind me. I could hear music playing from inside the house. It was coming through the door that connects the garage to the kitchen. Then, I heard voices over the music, Crystal's voice and his voice. My heart started pounding so hard I thought it might explode out of my chest. This was really happening, in my house, in my space, while I was supposed to be working and the boys were at school. I pulled out my phone and started recording audio, my fingers fumbling with the screen because my hands wouldn't stay steady. I pressed myself against my tool cabinet in the workshop, barely breathing, listening to them through that door. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was hiding behind the tools I used to fix things, listening to my marriage being destroyed just a few feet away. Crystal said something about how she'd called the clinic and told them she was sick and couldn't come in today. Shane laughed and said he'd told his foreman he had a family emergency and needed the afternoon off. She said something about having at least 3 hours before the boys got home from school. They had it all planned out, down to the timing. He said something about how they needed to be more careful, that people at church were starting to notice how much time they spent together. She told him she didn't care anymore, that she was tired of sneaking around like teenagers. Her voice had a quality I hadn't heard in years, excited, alive, passionate in a way that made my stomach turn. What I heard over the next 20 minutes confirmed every suspicion I'd had for months. They weren't just emotionally involved. This was a full-blown physical affair, complete with discussions about previous encounters and future plans. They talked about how hard it was to find time alone, about hotels they'd been to, about feelings and desires I won't repeat here. I heard them kissing, heard furniture moving around, heard my wife making sounds I hadn't heard her make in years. The worst part wasn't just the betrayal. It was realizing how long this had been going on and how completely I'd been played. Every late Bible study, every extra volunteer commitment, every time she'd come home glowing and energized, it had all been about him. I stood there in my own workshop, surrounded by the tools of my trade, listening to my wife destroy everything we'd built together. The space where I fixed broken systems had become the place where I discovered our marriage was beyond repair. At some point, I heard them get up and start moving around. She said something about how he should probably leave soon, just to be safe. He agreed and said he'd park down the street anyway, so the neighbors wouldn't see his truck. Even in their betrayal, they were being careful about appearances. That calculated deception somehow made it worse than if it had been a spontaneous moment of weakness. I heard footsteps heading toward the front of the house. I heard the front door open and close. Then there was silence except for the music still playing in the kitchen. I stood in that workshop for another 10 minutes, trying to process what had just happened. My whole body was shaking, and I felt like I might throw up. Eventually, I heard Crystal moving around in the kitchen, probably cleaning up evidence of their afternoon together. I quietly slipped back out through the side door and walked to my truck. Part of me wanted to go back in there and confront her right then and there. Part of me wanted to get in my truck and drive away and never come back. Instead, I waited another 5 minutes, then I drove back up to the house and walked in through the front door like I'd just arrived home from the job site. Crystal was in the kitchen making herself tea, and she jumped when she saw me like she'd been caught doing something wrong. She asked what I was doing home so early, and I could see the panic in her eyes, even as she tried to play it casual. I told her I'd finished the Gilbert job ahead of schedule and decided to come home for lunch before heading to the next appointment. She said she'd called in sick because she woke up with a terrible migraine and needed to rest in a quiet house. I honestly couldn't believe how easily the lies rolled off her tongue. 16 years of marriage, 3 sons together, and she could look me straight in the eye and lie without hesitation. I said I wasn't feeling great either, which was true, just not in the way she thought. But I was going to head back to work. Then I left and sat in my truck in the parking lot of a Circle K on Baseline Road, crying harder than I'd cried since my dad died 5 years ago. Everything I thought I knew about my life, my marriage, my family, felt like a lie. The system I'd thought was running smoothly had been broken for months, maybe longer, and I'd been too trusting or too blind to see it. I didn't confront her that evening when I got home from work. I needed time to think, to figure out what to do with this information. I had 3 sons to think about. Our entire lives were intertwined with this church, community, and I knew that exposing this would blow up everything we'd built. For 2 weeks, I walked around in a fog, pretending everything was normal while dying inside. I watched her text him right in front of me, watched her light up when she got a message that I knew was from him, watched her lie about where she was going and who she was with. It was like watching someone use a broken thermostat. They keep adjusting the temperature, but nothing changes because the whole system is compromised. Every Sunday we sat in church together as a family, and I would see Shane sitting with Amber and their boys a few rows ahead of us. He'd participate in worship, raise his hands during songs, nod along with Pastor Craig's sermons about integrity and faithfulness. The hypocrisy was staggering. Amber looked happy, oblivious, trusting. Their kids seemed well-adjusted and content. I kept thinking about how many lives were going to be destroyed when this came out, because it would come out. These things always do. The question was whether I was going to control the narrative or let it explode on its own terms. I struggled with what the right thing to do was. Part of me wanted to confront them both privately and demand it end immediately. Part of me wanted to go straight to Amber and tell her what her husband was doing. Part of me wanted to pack up my boys and leave without explaining anything to anyone. But there was another part of me that kept thinking about our church community and how this wasn't just about my marriage anymore. These were two people who stood up in front of our congregation regularly, who volunteered with youth groups, who prayed with other families, who presented themselves as faithful servants. They were living a lie that could potentially damage a lot of people beyond just their spouses. I also thought about the fact that Pastor Craig had counseled us before marriage, had baptized all 3 of our boys, had been there for our family during every major life event for 14 years. He deserved to know that 2 members of his congregation were not who they appeared to be. After 3 weeks of internal torment, I made an appointment to speak with Pastor Craig privately. This was late September, about 3 weeks after I caught them. I brought my phone with the audio recording, along with a detailed timeline of all the suspicious behavior I'd documented. I told him everything, from the beginning of my suspicions to standing in my workshop, listening to them destroy my family and my own house. He listened without interrupting, his face growing more grave as I spoke. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time, the kind of silence that feels heavy with the weight of what's been revealed. Finally, he said that this was an incredibly serious situation that required careful handling. He asked if I had confronted Crystal yet, and I told him I hadn't. He asked if I planned to, and I said I didn't know what I planned to do about anything. I felt like a man standing in front of a completely failed system, knowing it needed to be torn out and replaced, but not sure where to start. He told me he needed to pray on this and seek guidance, but that he felt he had a responsibility to address it with both of them. We agreed that he would call meetings with each of them separately first. The church had protocols for handling situations like this, and he wanted to follow them properly. 2 days later, Pastor Craig called Crystal and asked her to come to the church for a meeting about volunteer coordination. She agreed without hesitation, thinking it was routine church business. When she arrived and saw me sitting there with the pastor, the color drained from her face. She knew immediately why we were all there. Pastor Craig explained that he had been made aware of serious allegations regarding her relationship with Shane Rivers. He asked her to be honest about the nature of that relationship. She tried to deny it at first, said they were just friends, that people were reading too much into innocent interactions. Then Pastor Craig said he'd heard evidence that suggested otherwise, and I pulled out my phone. I didn't need to play the recording, just having it was enough. The threat of exposure, of her own voice and actions being played back, broke her resolve completely. She broke down, sobbing and apologizing and saying she didn't know how it had happened. She said it had started as an emotional connection because she felt lonely in our marriage, that she felt taken for granted and invisible. She said it had become physical in May, about 4 months earlier, that she knew it was wrong, that she'd been trying to find a way to end it. Pastor Craig asked if she was willing to end the affair immediately and commit to rebuilding our marriage through counseling. She said yes, that she wanted to save our family, that she'd made a terrible mistake. Then, Pastor Craig said he would need to have the same conversation with Shane, and that Amber would need to be informed as well. Crystal panicked at that, begged him not to tell the Rivers family, said it would destroy them. Pastor Craig explained that this wasn't just about our 2 marriages anymore. This was about the integrity of the church community. He scheduled a meeting with Shane for the next evening. That meeting apparently went very differently. According to Pastor Craig, when confronted, Shane denied everything at first. He said Crystal had misread their friendship, that any feelings were one-sided on her part, that nothing physical had ever happened between them. He actually tried to make Crystal look like she'd been pursuing him inappropriately. The coward was throwing my wife under the bus to save himself. Pastor Craig told him about the evidence I had, and his story changed immediately. Suddenly he admitted to feelings, but claimed they'd only kissed once and immediately regretted it. When Pastor Craig pressed him about the audio recording, Shane started backtracking and changing his story again. Pastor Craig called him out on the lies and told him that Amber deserved to know the truth. That's when Shane started crying and begging the pastor not to say anything. He said it would destroy his marriage, his business, that his kids would hate him. Pastor Craig told him he had 48 hours to tell Amber himself before the pastor would do it for him. What happened next was like watching a controlled demolition. Everything came down in exactly the right sequence. Shane told Amber 2 days later, on a Saturday evening. She showed up at our house at 9 o'clock that night, hysterical and demanding to talk to Crystal. I had sent Crystal to stay with her sister after her meeting with the pastor, so she wasn't there. Amber ended up screaming at me on my front porch while my boys were inside watching a movie. She blamed Crystal. Entirely said Crystal had seduced her husband, that Shane was a good man who'd been led astray by a manipulative woman. I told her that it takes two people to have an affair and that her husband was just as responsible. She told me I was a fool if I took Crystal back, that Crystal was obviously the instigator since she was the one who confessed first. I tried to explain that Shane had lied initially and only admitted things when confronted with evidence, but she didn't want to hear it. It was an awful conversation that ended with her getting back in her car and speeding off. The following Monday, Pastor Craig called a special meeting with the church elders to inform them of the situation. I wasn't part of that meeting, but I heard about it afterward from Keith Martinez, who's been a friend of mine for years and serves as an elder. The discussion was apparently heated, with some elders feeling this was a private matter between families and others, believing the church had an obligation to address it directly. Ultimately, they decided that both Crystal and Shane needed to step down from all leadership and volunteer positions immediately. They would not be allowed to attend the same services anymore. One would attend Sunday morning service and the other would attend Sunday evening service. They were both required to attend individual counseling and marriage counseling with Christian counselors approved by the church. And if they wanted to remain part of the congregation long term, they needed to demonstrate genuine repentance and commitment to healing. Of course, word spread through the church within days, despite everyone being asked to keep it confidential. Churches are like small towns. Everybody knows everybody's business, whether they want to or not. But what I hadn't anticipated was how quickly the news would spread through the contractor network in Mesa. Within a week, I started getting calls from suppliers asking if I'd heard about Shane Rivers. Apparently, Amber had been busy sharing her version of events with anyone who would listen, and her narrative painted Shane as a weak man who'd been seduced and manipulated by my wife. But the contractor community is tight-knit, and most of the guys had worked with both of us long enough to form their own opinions. The real satisfaction came when I realized how much this was going to cost Shane professionally. His business had always operated on thin margins, like most small plumbing outfits. He relied heavily on referrals from other contractors, credit terms with suppliers, and his reputation for reliability. When contractors start questioning your character, your business dries up fast. Desert Supply, where we both bought most of our materials, put Shane on cash-only terms within 2 weeks of the news breaking. They told him it was a temporary policy adjustment, but everyone knew what it meant. When suppliers lose confidence in your stability, they protect themselves by eliminating credit risk. 3 of the general contractors who regularly use Shane's services stopped calling him for jobs. I heard through Keith that Morrison Construction, one of the biggest builders in the East Valley, removed Shane from their preferred subcontractor list. That alone probably cost him $40,000 to $50,000 in annual revenue. The most satisfying moment came when Tony Vasquez from Arizona Mechanical called to ask if I could take on some of the commercial work that Shane used to handle. Tony said several of his clients had specifically requested not to work with Shane anymore, citing concerns about his personal reliability affecting his professional commitments. Meanwhile, my business actually grew during this period. Contractors who had previously split work between Shane and me started sending everything my way. My honesty in handling the situation, my willingness to put family and faith first, seemed to resonate with people in the industry. By November, I had to hire a third part-time guy just to keep up with demand. Crystal, who moved back home after spending a week at her sister's house, started attending the evening service as required. The evening service was much smaller and quieter, which she said she preferred anyway. She lost weight, looked exhausted all the time, and was clearly struggling with depression and anxiety. Our boys knew something serious was wrong, but not the full details initially. I sat them down about a week after everything came out and explained that their mother and I were going through a very difficult time in our marriage. I didn't give them specifics, just said that trust had been broken and we were working on fixing it. Brett, who was supposed to be focusing on his final year at trade school, came home and told me he was taking a semester off to help with the family business and be there for his younger brothers. That broke my heart. He shouldn't have had to put his education on hold because of his mother's choices. But I was also proud of the man he was becoming, stepping up when his family needed him. Dustin became withdrawn and angry. He stopped going to youth group and refused to participate in any family activities that included both parents. Troy, being the youngest, handled it better on the surface, but he started having trouble sleeping and his grades slipped. Shane and Amber filed for divorce in late October. From what I heard through the contractor grapevine, it was brutal. Amber was pushing for full custody of their boys and trying to use the affair as evidence that Shane was an unfit father. Shane had moved out of their house and into a cheap apartment across town, trying to keep his business afloat while paying for lawyers and temporary support. By December, Shane had lost so much work that he was forced to lay off 4 of his 6 employees. His truck showed up on several job sites, looking worse for wear, like he couldn't afford proper maintenance anymore. The man who used to compete with me for the best commercial contracts was now scrambling for small residential repair jobs. The final blow to Shane's business came when his commercial insurance carrier dropped him in January. Apparently, Amber had made some statements during the divorce proceedings about his pattern of deceptive behavior that raised red flags with the insurance company. Without commercial coverage, he couldn't bid on any significant jobs. I heard through Keith that Shane had approached Pastor Craig about returning to church, claiming he'd learned his lesson and wanted to rebuild his life. But by then, he'd burned too many bridges. Too many families had left the congregation because of the scandal. Too many people felt he'd shown his true character. Crystal and I are still together, though I honestly don't know if our marriage will survive long term. We're in counseling every week, and some days are better than others. She's trying hard to rebuild trust, being completely transparent with her phone and schedule, going to individual therapy twice a week. But there's a part of me that died when I stood in that workshop listening to her, with him in our house, in the space where I've always felt most capable and competent. Every time I walk into that workshop now, I remember that moment. Some systems can be repaired, but others need to be completely replaced to ever work properly again. The hardest part has been watching how it's affected our boys, but I've also seen them develop a respect for honesty and consequences that I hope will serve them well as men. They've learned that actions matter, that character counts, and that sometimes doing the right thing requires courage even when it's painful. So most days, I stand by my decision to tell Pastor Craig, even though it blew up everything. Because I've learned that some heat can't be contained. It either gets released in a controlled way, or it builds up until the whole system explodes. I chose the controlled burn, and while it destroyed the old landscape, it cleared the ground for something better to grow. Whether that makes me the asshole or not, I'll let you decide. But here's what I know for sure. When you discover rot in the foundation, you don't just paint over it and hope for the best. You expose it, you deal with it, and you rebuild on solid ground. That's not just good advice for HVAC systems. It's the only way to live with integrity.